Well, hey kids. Whew. Love it when I do this. This is take 2 and I just had to climb the tower again. And I have a baffle on, guys, so trust me, the wind would be a lot worse if I didn't. Back here up Culp's Hill on the tower. Just to give you some orientation, we're looking south and you can see the Visitors Museum, National Park Service. Unfortunately, it just clouded over. We had some sunlight before. Looking this way, we've got, if you can make it out, we've got the cemetery and Cemetery Hill. Looking ever so slightly north and slightly to the east, we've got the town. And I'm gonna get down off this tower real soon, guys. I just wanted to give you a view. But it is cold and windy up here. And down there we've got Pops Green. So I wanted to address one of the other big questions of Gettysburg, one of the other big what ifs, if you will. And once again, it has to do with Richard S. Ewell. Of course, the first big question was, why didn't he try to take Cemetery Hill? And I addressed that in a video, and I'll go ahead and link that if I remember to. But another one of the big questions, we might get some more sun. Another one of the big questions is, why didn't he try to take Culp's Hill on the first? And the answer, guys, is that he did. Although you might call it a half-hearted attempt. Now, I'd like to mention that Richard S. Ewell was certainly a worthy commander, a worthy general. And again, the decisions that he faced and the situations that he faced here at Gettysburg were quite complex, guys, and really shouldn't be oversimplified. Although that's kind of what I have to do because I have a limited amount of time. But basically, on the night of the 1st, he sent James S. Wadsworth was the Major General up here for the Union, and Ewell was on the scene along with Edward Allegheny Johnson, who of course was with him when they came back on the 2nd. But much of the problem may have stemmed from the fact that Ewell only sent a very small force in recon, or to reconnoiter and assess the situation. That force ran into, I think, the 7th Indiana, and were greatly outnumbered, so they scurried out of here and barely got out of here without being captured. So there's your answer in a nutshell. Ewell did make an attempt, but he sent a very small force on expedition, and to his surprise, because they thought that the hill was more or less unoccupied. Now, being wise, he did send a small force up ahead of him, when, you know, sometimes in other parts of the battle, you know, there was no expeditionary force. Reminds me of the situation with Iverson on Oak Ridge. Even though that's a slightly different situation. But anyways, so as most people know, the battle did pick up again on the 2nd, on the afternoon, late afternoon, and this time everybody showed up in force on the Confederate side, and this time his timing was brilliant, because it was around the time of the late afternoon on the 4th when Meade began pulling lots of troops out of here to support the main battles over on the left flank. Let me see. Originally, you also had, in addition to Wadsworth, you also had Slocum, but they were both pulled out of here. So and as Gary always likes to mention, you had Candy, Kane, and Green with Wadsworth, and at one point, I believe Meredith and Cutler were also here with parts of the Iron Brigade. So on the afternoon and evening of the 2nd, the Union had this place very well defended, but they were all yanked out of here, and the only folks who were left was the brigade of old George S. Greene, George Sears Greene, Pops as they call him, because he was the oldest commander in the Battle of Gettysburg at the age of 62. What's going on, Pops? How we doing? I'm really fond of this guy, so I kind of talk to him as if, you know. So, as we know, he was an engineer, and being an engineer, he greatly understood the practical uses of physical defenses such as breastworks. And just to rehash, this was somewhat against the opinions of other generals who felt that breastworks simply led men to over-rely on them and to not utilize and employ other aspects of fighting and defense, which is really kind of silly given the situation. And it couldn't have worked out better for Greene, because when Slocum and Wadsworth rolled out, only Greene was left here with, I'm gonna get the numbers mixed up, about 1,400 men versus Ewell's 4,700. And against all odds, against those numbers, and thanks to the utilization of breastworks, they successfully defended the hill. One other small misconception, I think, is that the battle began very late in the evening on the 2nd, around 7 p.m., and that's half true. Ewell actually began a bombardment from that direction around 4 o'clock, but didn't send the main infantry in until about 7 o'clock. So I really don't think that would have made much of a difference at all. It was just too well defended, thanks to the intuition of Pops. Another fun note is that being an engineer after the war, Greene went on to design much of the infrastructure of the city of New York. Because as we know, and I've kind of covered this, albeit in a different context, this was the second time that New York was built with modern infrastructure, modern sewage, which was one of the things that he worked on, and so on and so forth. Which also kind of reminds me of someone I also covered recently, who would be Charles Pomeroy Stone, who was kind of scapegoated after the Battle of Ball's Bluff, and was imprisoned at Fort Lafayette and also in New York City. And it was you have some more irony here, because Stone, after being imprisoned at Fort Lafayette, went on to also become an engineer during the great building of the city of New York, close to the turn of the century, which was ironic because he was jailed, and unrightfully so, just across the harbor. Really fun stories of the Civil War, guys. This is the kind of stuff I love. Again, I'm not a battlefield guide. I'm not trying to be a battlefield guide, but I really get into you know, the overarching themes, the social perspective, if you will, the civilian aspect, and when you really dig in that way, you know, the lives and biographies of some of these folks, it's just really interesting stuff. Ooh, I'm at 9.5 minutes. I've already read this sign here. One other thing I'd like to reiterate that I mentioned before was, while there were very few troops from the state of Maryland here at the Battle of Gettysburg, in comparison, or in contrast, you know, with numbers sent from Pennsylvania and New York and places like that, many of the Marylanders who were here fought here at Culp's Hill. Give a little shot of Pops. Thank God, I think I got that about all right this time. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.